It's Wednesday, May 17. In the headlines, parliamentarians to get pay increase. In business news, Jamaica's point-to-point inflation rate falls. Regionally, Antigua's foreign minister urges action on regional transportation and Haiti's crisis. Internationally, United States Senate questions SVB and Signature Bank bosses on their recent collapse. And in sports, Jamaican triple jumper sets new collegiate record. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Information Minister Robert Morgan supports the announced increase of salaries for parliamentarians. Speaking at the post-cabinet press brief on Wednesday, Minister Morgan said the move is part of the public sector transformation process.
If you listen to the Minister of Finance yesterday, he would have outlined a significant amount of increases, many of which are much higher than what was announced for government and opposition members and MPs.
He says the increase aligns with a formula established for compensation for permanent secretaries and portfolio ministers.
The structure that was operating for the last 20-odd years. So it's not a case where the government got up and said, okay, we're going to just give the ministers a massive increase. It is an increase that is predicated on the formula that has been accepted and used for the last 20-odd years in government.
Minister Morgan notes substantial wage increases for other public sector bodies.
This government has moved social workers to a base of about $3 to $4 million. That's more than 200%. So it's not just politicians.
Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark on Tuesday addressed revised salary bands for legislators and other members of the political directorate, saying that annual adjustments have been made across the entire administrative leadership level of the public sector in order to attract and retain high-caliber leadership. He was speaking at the weekly meeting of the lower house. Here's more in this report.
Let me say that the application of this framework will result in levels of salary increases that will attract attention, and rightly so. As such, as accountable officers, it's necessary to provide the context, the thought process, and the principles at work. Madam Speaker, while much has been ventilated in the public domain, it has escaped media attention that the public sector restructuring has resulted in significant movement in salary scales for a majority of persons who work in the public service. You don't increase public sector compensation by $100 billion without such an outcome.
The adjustment will see the Prime Minister's salary move from the current $9.169 million as at 2021 to $22.332 million with effect April 1, 2022, then to $25.267 million effective April 2023. The opposition leader's existing salary of $8.031 million will increase to $20.099 million effective April 2022, moving to $22.740 million effective April 2023, after which it will increase to $25.729 million effective April 2024. Cabinet ministers will continue to earn $52 more than the maximum salaries of permanent secretaries. Members of Parliament will see their current salary of $4.331 million move to $11.077 million effective April 1, 2022, then to $12.532 million effective April 2023. Then increase to $14.179 million with effect from April 1, 2024. The increases for the political directorate follow on the conclusion of the first phase of compensation restructuring for government employees. States of a public emergency, SOEs, have been declared in Hanover, St. James and Clarendon. The SOEs are in response to a surge in criminal activities within these areas. The announcement was made through a statement from the Office of the Prime Minister on Tuesday. In the statement, Prime Minister Andrew Holness emphasized the government's commitment to safeguarding the lives of innocent citizens. Major General Anthony Anderson, Commissioner of Police, highlighted the situation in the affected divisions, stating, quote, "The Clarendon Police Division has witnessed a significant increase in murders and shooting incidents, with a 67% increase in murders and a 41% increase in shooting incidents as at May 14, 2023, compared to the same period last year. This necessitates the declaration of a state of public emergency," end quote. The Jamaica Defense Force Chief of Staff, Rear Admiral Antoinette Weemis-Gorman, underscored that, quote, "The JDF stands behind the recommendation for the declaration of a state of public emergency in the specified areas," end quote. In the meantime, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang urged citizens to see the enhanced security measures as an opportunity to join the fight against criminality. The state of a public emergency enables security forces, including the JDF, to conduct targeted operations aimed at disrupting and dismantling criminal gangs and their networks, as well as preventing serious crimes. The government reassures the public that the safety and security of all Jamaicans remain its utmost priority. The Jamaica Promotions Corporation, JAMPRO, launched the Jamaica Business Gateway today, May 17. The aim of the platform, which will serve as an online portal for government processes, is to allow members of the private sector to readily access some of the essential services needed for business development. The new virtual space is designed to connect businesses with the information and tools needed to engage and transact with government of Jamaica. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Jamaica's annual inflation as at April was 5.8%. This is said to be the lowest rate increase in the cost of goods since August 2021. The Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, says the percentage increase in the cost of goods up to April was influenced mainly by a 10% hike in the cost of food and non-alcoholic beverages and a 16% increase in prices associated with restaurants and accommodation services. But a 3% decline in the group housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels tempered the rise in prices. For the month of April alone, prices fell by 0.4%. For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, May 16, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.43. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.49. The pound sterling traded for $195.73, and the euro sold for $172.77. In GSE trading, the GSE index advanced by 1,411 points. The junior market index declined by 38 points. The combined market index advanced by 963 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 2,328 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 103 stocks, of which 39 advanced, 48 declined, and 16 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and the Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, Barita Investments Limited, and the Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and the Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. The overall volume leaders were Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited with over 7 million units, JFP Limited with over 7 million units, and JMMB Group 7.50% with over 3 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund posted 360 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Epley Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund was the volume leader with 12,000 shares. They were followed by Goddard Enterprises Limited and the First Caribbean International Bank, which traded 453 and 326 shares respectively. In regional business, entrepreneurs in Barbados will soon have access to more funding to further develop their businesses. That revelation from Business Minister Senator Lisa Cummins. Representative of Trade Wind Tankers, Michael Wan Panek, also provided some details about the areas which will be covered in the training.
During the course of this year, on the business side of this ministry, we will be launching something called Scale Up Barbados. And why are we launching something called Scale Up Barbados? We will be doing so in collaboration with Fund Access and the Trust Loans Agency that you already know about, that has a small tranche of resources to get you started, then you elevate to Fund Access. What is going to be Scale Up Barbados? Scale Up Barbados is going to be designed to do exactly what you are starting to do here now. It is meant to take those businesses that start small and help them to scale to become medium. Those businesses that are medium and help them to scale to become large. Those businesses that are large and help them to go into export spaces.
Our main goal here is to empower the youth, women, and men entrepreneurs of Barbados through business development, leadership, and entrepreneurial training. We believe that by providing these tools, we can contribute to the overall economic growth of Barbados and help build a more sustainable and inclusive society. So we are proud to partner, of course, with Barbados National Oil Company and the whole country of Barbados for this project.
In international business, U.S. stock indexes closed lower after data for April pointed to softer consumer spending, while uncertainty about interest rates and debt limit negotiations weighed on sentiment.
U.S. stocks fell on Tuesday after a disappointing forecast from Home Depot and mixed broader retail sales. The Dow closed down 1%. The S&P 500 lost more than 0.6%, and the Nasdaq shed about 0.2. Home Depot was the biggest drag on the Dow, falling more than 2%, and among the heaviest weights on the S&P after the home improvement giant reported a first-quarter sales decline of more than 4%. More worrisome was a cut to its annual sales forecast, its first since 2009. Shares of smaller rival Lowe's fell nearly 1.2%. But Dryden Pence, chief investment officer at Pence Wealth Management, says that Home Depot's numbers on the surface don't tell the whole story.
You look deep inside those numbers, you find that of the 4.5% decline in sales numbers, roughly half of that, or 2% of it, was attributable to a decline in lumber prices. I mean, lumber prices came down year over year like 75%. So if you kind of look into the math, you find that you had some anomalies occur, you had some commodity prices spike up, but remember, earnings was pretty close to on target or a slight beat for Home Depot.
In other movers, Horizon Therapeutics tumbled more than 14% as the Federal Trade Commission said it would file a lawsuit to block Amgen's $27.8 billion deal to buy the company. Shares of Amgen fell 2.4%. And shares of Capital One climbed 2% a day after Berkshire Hathaway disclosed it had taken a stake of nearly $1 billion in the stock. The Commerce Department on Tuesday reported retail sales rose 0.4% in April, short of the 0.8% estimate, but core retail sales rebounded. Those exclude automobiles, gasoline, building materials, and food services. Recent data has indicated a slowdown in the U.S. economy following a string of rate hikes by the Federal Reserve to fight inflation. Meanwhile, lawmakers on Tuesday held a new round of talks about raising the debt ceiling. The Treasury Department has warned it could run out of money as soon as June 1st without a deal, which would trigger a default and likely cause a sharp economic slump.
In market data for oil prices were steady after a surprise rise in U.S. crude inventories stoked demand concerns as economic worries competed with a tighter supply outlook for later in the year. Brent crude futures rose 19 cents to $75.10 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude was up 20 cents to $71.06. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, Antigua's Foreign Affairs Minister E.P. Ched Green has called on his Caricom colleagues to work collectively to address thorny issues including regional transportation and the crisis in Haiti. Garfield Burford reports.
The first in-person meeting of the Council of Foreign and Community Relations, COFCOR, since 2019, and the second time it is being hosted in Jamaica's capital, Kingston. For Minister E.P. Ched Green, it was an opportunity to address regional colleagues after a year's stint as chairman of COFCOR. His address, though, was not simply a valedictory one with reflections. He also put into perspective continuing challenges facing the Caribbean community.
With a common language and shared culture, our region should be closer than we are at present. Unlike other institutions such as the European Union, we are not landlocked, but separated by sea.
That's why he says addressing the issue of regional transportation is paramount.
In order to achieve Caricom's pillars of regional integration, it is necessary for us to address this issue of regional travel with the urgency that is required. Our respective member states, along with the Secretariat, need to devise workable plans and solutions to provide affordable air and maritime travel.
Another major challenge for Caricom foreign ministers is the worsening socio-political crisis in Haiti.
I am, however, of the firm belief that we must work collectively to devise solutions and address the situation. Ultimately, the decision on the direction that Haiti will forge depends primarily upon its citizens. Therefore, there must be national consensus within Haiti, whilst those of us in the wider region are called upon to demonstrate patience and corresponding or parallel support to allow for the self-determination of the Haitian people.
Minister Green also says another unfolding situation thousands of miles away continues to impact the Caricom region.
The Russian-Ukraine conflict still presents a challenge on the global stage, with its ever-lingering economic effects on our economies and our livelihoods. As a community, I urge that we continue to advocate for the swift resolution of this conflict before it escalates any further, and to do so since our very lives depend upon it.
Minister Green has handed over the chairmanship to Jamaica's Foreign Minister, Kamina Johnson-Smith.
I wish to congratulate my colleague, Minister Johnson-Smith, on her assumption of the chair of COFCOR. I've always known you to be an advocate for Caricom and of its endeavors. I'm assured that your leadership and determination will serve to advance the COFCOR and, by extension, our region.
I want to thank you personally, Chet, and also in the role of incoming chair, for your excellent stewardship over the past year, which has left us on sound footing to undertake the critical work ahead of us this year.
The Barbados Police Service is going green. On Tuesday, the island's law enforcement agency made the first step in that direction with the handover of 2 new electric vehicles. Sharika Griffith was there and filed this report.
From fossil-fueled vehicles to electric. That's the transition the Barbados Police Service has begun. It started with 2 new Nissan Leaf vehicles. Acting Police Communications and Public Affairs Officer Inspector Stephen Griffith explains it's all part of government's push to be carbon neutral by 2030.
The Barbados Police Service is working towards the transition from gas and diesel vehicles to electric vehicles. The 2 vehicles delivered to us today is part of that transition process. And we intend to continue this process until we have the complete fleet transition.
Inspector Griffith, however, acknowledges it could take some time before the entire fleet has been replaced.
But we have a fleet of estimated just over 300 vehicles. And therefore, the process, as you will recognize, is going to be a slow process, but it will be consistent on as we, as government, finances will go. Because government would have to change not only the police force's vehicles, but other vehicles in other departments. So it's going to be a transition process.
The vehicles were delivered by Courtesy Garage Limited. Sales executive Sean Prescott says the cars, which can travel up to 260 kilometers when fully charged, are well suited for police use.
They're very low maintenance because electric vehicles have less moving parts. and they don't carry gearboxes or anything like that, and they're very responsive. So in terms of pursuing someone, they get off the line quickly because electric vehicles carry direct torque to the wheels, and they have a very higher torque level than a regular vehicle.
The vehicles were purchased for a duty-free price of $85,000 each. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
A United Nations representative is now carrying out an assessment of Cameroonian victims who were rescued just off the southeast coast of St. Kitts after the vessel they were in capsized. Glenn Bart has the details.
Since then, the Cameroonians, plus one Antiguan and one person from the Dominican Republic, are being cared for humanely, said Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, who is also the Minister of National Security. Prime Minister Drew told news media at his recent roundtable that the government will act appropriately once the UN report is presented. He did confirm, however, that many of the rescued are well-educated people. He briefly indicated that those involved in human trafficking will be charged and referred also to the 3 deceased victims of the tragedy.
If I can recall, I think that the Antiguan, at least, that they who pursued it are charged. The United Nations is now involved, and they're going to start their own assessment. I think it's today or tomorrow. And from their assessment, they're going to give us a report. And then based on the report, we will take our final action. So you can touch base with our national security, our PS, and get details on that, but that is where we're at. Or you can even touch the UN, touch base with the UN representative who is here, and they would also be able to confirm that as well. So the UN has become involved to help us to deal with this matter. But I can tell you that they're well-educated people from my own assessment, but I'll get the official assessment from the UN. There are three bodies here of those who died. I have said to them, if nobody claimed the bodies, and we'll ask the UN to help us to see if there are family members in the United States who can claim the bodies, we will find out what their religion is. If they are Muslims, we'll get a Muslim imam to come in and bury them. If they are Christians, then we are a Christian society. We'll get a pastor to bury them. But we'll make sure that they're buried with the greatest of respect and in accordance with the religion that they practice. So we are going to pursue that as well. So when the UN give us the assessment, we'll know who they are, the religion they practice, and give them a burial befitting of a human being. We are civilized people, and irrespective of all these human trafficking issues, we will act like civilized people.
The Cameroonians left Antigua, where they had been stranded for some time, en route to the U.S. Virgin Islands when the boat capsized off the southeast coast of St. Kitts. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
In international news, the former leaders of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank have faced tough questions in a hearing before the United States Senate Banking Committee. The executives were grilled over their roles in driving the banks to failure in March, launching a financial crisis. More from Al Jazeera.
For the former bank bosses, this was a lesson in humiliation.
Mr. Becker, you made a really stupid bet that went bad, didn't you?
Senator.
And the taxpayers of America had to pick up the tab for your stupidity, didn't they?
A preliminary government report found both Silicon Valley and Signature banks grew too fast, had too many uninsured accounts, and made risky investments, leading to their spectacular failures. The former CEOs, however, declined to take blame.
Do you think that the poor management of you and your staff contributed to the failure of the bank?
I think the root cause was the panic that took place in a few hours on.
So you disagree? You think it was the root?
I think the bank was
the run on the bank.
I think the
you think
board,
it was the run on the bank that caused the failure? Is that what you're telling me?
The run on the bank.
At Silicon Valley Bank, customers withdrew $42 billion in just 10 hours. That's more than $1 million per second. The government then took over and paid back uninsured depositors to the tune of $20 billion. Meanwhile, CEO Greg Becker was getting richer, selling his bank stock shortly before the crisis and bringing his earnings for the past 4 years to $40 million.
How much of the $40 million are you planning to return? How many times are we going to do this dance?
Senator, I promise to cooperate with the regulators.
Can you play the video for me?
Signature Bank's founder, Scott Shea, was forced to watch this old video of himself.
What possible fate will become of our bank other than to diminish and fail?
I happen to know for a fact that won't happen.
Mr. Shea, you're in that video, aren't you?
Yes, I'm in that video.
And you showed that video to the public?
That video was designed as a morale boosting.
But did you show it to the public?
It was shown at the employee parties.
But it was Silicon Valley's former chief who went to Hawaii the day after his bank failed that drew the most outrage.
Did you have a chance to walk on the beach, sit on the beach, and when you did you think about what you've done to these people?
The last time that Silicon Valley's CEO testified before Congress was to lobby for rolling back banking regulations in 2018. He got what he wanted, and his bank grew as a result. Now Congress is considering retightening those rules, but only after putting those bank bosses' feet to the fire. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Washington.
In sports, World Under-20 triple jump champion Jaden Hibbert is still celebrating his victory. Hibbert took the Southeastern Conference title last Saturday with a World Under-20 outdoor record effort of 17.87 meters, erasing the 17.50 mark made by East Germany's Volker May in 1985. It is a collegiate record and the best jump in the world this year. He says that he is not putting any limits on what he can achieve early in his career. In his first year at the University of Arkansas, he has already claimed the World Under-20 indoor record with an effort of 17.54 meters. And that's it for the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.